All right, everybody, let's kick this off. So welcome to this webinar on Signal Hive 2.0, which is essentially Hive Hybrid, a technology that we debuted around 3 weeks ago. And essentially, it's all about semi-automatic and fully automatic trading of Signal Hive signals. So far, this service has been predominantly manual trading, but we hope that with the technologies that we're introducing and improving upon every week, it makes the experience somewhat less riskier for you, as binary options is very risky. The contents of this material are for informational purposes only and do not constitute investment advice. Blue Sky Binary assumes no responsibility for any potential errors, inaccuracies, or omissions in this material. Nothing in this communication contains or should be considered as containing an investment advice or an investment recommendation or a solicitation for the purpose of purchase or sale of any financial instrument. Binary options trading may not be suitable for all investors as it carries a very high degree of risk to your capital. Trading such products is risky and you may lose all of your investment. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Poor fill rates, expiry times, market volatility, and platform errors could result in losing trades. Before deciding to invest in binary options, you should carefully consider your investment objectives, level of experience, and risk appetite. You should be aware of all the risks associated with foreign exchange and binary options trading and seek advice from an independent financial advisor if you have any doubts. The agenda for today is to give you a quick breakdown on what exactly Hive Hybrid is, discuss the two main modes of trading. I want to spend a bit of time going over the Hawkeye engine, which is the bedrock of the technology that's driving Hive. Then we'll discuss how to set up your Hive module successfully and also how to replicate or duplicate trades from the Hive straight into your account if you're manually trading it. And then I want to spend a bit of time discussing risk management. Specifically, now that we have the data after 2 to 3 weeks of launch, we can give some potential advice on which risk settings to take. All right. And with that in mind, we'll discuss the Hawkeye Risk engine. And then at the end, I'll discuss pricing of the Hive, especially the Hive Hybrid, for those of you that are new. And then we'll end on a Q&A as always. So basically, as I mentioned earlier, until now, Signal Hive, or until 3 weeks ago, Signal Hive was a manual trading service where you would effectively get the signal in your Signal Hive dashboard, which is web-based, and there's an audio and visual alert, and then you would hopefully try and beat that price that it was fired at and try and generate some return on your capital. The hybrid technology, which we launched recently, allows you to replicate these signals that are blast on Hive straight into your binary option accounts. You don't require access to your binary option broker trading platform. All you need is a connection from Signal Hive to your binary option account. Now, this technology, in our view, saves you valuable time that is often lost between a signal being beamed or blast on Hive and you then manually having to go over to your binary option broker and selecting the asset, the expiry, the trade amounts, and then actually physically taking the trade. The technology is currently engineered for semi-automatic and fully automatic trading. The semi-automatic mode allows you to manually obtain better entries on signals inside Hive, thereby potentially generating a higher win rate at a reduced risk than the underlying signal stream. And this applies to all robotic and human streams that are currently live or also those that are going to be added. And for those of you that have been following our story over the last few months, we're always adding new signal streams, both human senior traders that are vetted and also robotic. The thing is with Hawkeye, the Hawkeye engine specifically, which I'll go over in detail next, it's a technology that also allows you to set specific pip-based thresholds, and these can vary per stream. One thing to note is that as of this weekend, or actually as of last week, we've kind of engineered this further. It's not just pips, now it's also looking at market movement, price volatility, and thereby adjusting the entries, and more on that in a bit. The fully automatic trading mode is for those that have literally no time to engage with the Hive. This allows you to automatically replicate either at the price immediately, at a better price, or considerably better prices on signals, thereby potentially generating very high win rates. at a reduced risk than the underlying stream. And now this again, like the SAT mode, which is semi-automatic trading, applies to both robotic and human signals. Okay. The thing about the FAT mode, also known as FAT inside the community, or fully automatic, this actually requires you to remain logged into your Hive dashboard, and it simply requires a connection to your account. You don't need to be logged in to your binary broker account. You do, however, need to be logged into your Hive unit. Okay. And one thing to note at this point is that if you are on fully automatic trading mode, if that is the mode that you have selected, please invest in a VPS. That is a much less painful way to get this working. The main reason is that this ensures an uninterrupted connection between your Hive unit and your binary broker account. Okay, there's a dramatic improvement because then all trades get replicated, the ones that are supposed to. All right. If you are using your main computer to do other tasks and other web browsers are open, sometimes this can cause an interrupted signal, and therefore signals may not be replicated. So if you are going for fully automatic trading, please invest in a VPS. We advise on various VPS providers. We're not affiliates of any of them, but it's worth noting that the cost of a VPS these days is very small. It's just a few dollars per month, somewhere in the range of $15 to $30. So it's not really going to bite into your ROI. For those of you that are on semi-automatic trading, those that are actually waiting for signals on Hive and then engaging the risk management that Hawkeye allows and taking them at better prices, that you don't need a VPS for that. You can use that on your laptop or your computer. So let's discuss the Hawkeye engine. Hawkeye allows you to manually add desired signal thresholds or PIP thresholds or risk management thresholds, being a better word, when a signal is fired. Okay, so it is real time as well. Every time a signal is fired, and let's say you are in semi-automatic mode, you'll see an orange icon that looks like this next to the signal. You click on that, all right, and you will basically be greeted with a trade window, and there you can immediately replicate the signal into your binary account. Or you can actually add it to a watch list, all right, and set your risk settings, and then it will simply monitor the price, and if it meets your risk settings, then it will take the signal. Now, these used to be purely pip-based. They are no longer purely pip-based. We've added more algorithms and parameters that looks at market movement and other items as well. Okay. With regards to setting this up, so how exactly do you connect your Signal Hive unit to your binary broker account, and how do you activate hybrid? That's what we're going to discuss next. The first step is to obtain a qualifying binary account. Okay, and at this moment, the only broker that has the range of expiries and pairs and connectivity by the API, and that meets our regulatory standards, would be binary.com. Okay, so binary.com is has been vetted by us, and basically we connect to your binary.com account. And the way you do this is that you open a binary.com account. It doesn't have to be through our affiliate link. Okay, so there's absolutely no need for that. We are not compensated on the affiliate side or affiliate earnings or anything. We simply have the link for us to track certain things, but it has nothing to do with financial compensation. So you can open a binary.com account on binary.com, or you can do it inside Hive when you click on hybrid in the tab at the top tab here when you log in, and it'll take you to binary.com, and you basically can open a virtual account or a real money account. All right, for those of you that are new to this, we would highly suggest opening a virtual account so that you have no financial risk in testing the auto trader. And you do it for 1 or 2, 3 weeks, and if you're happy with the results, then you can switch over to live. Now, the connection itself is pretty easy. We advise on it as well. You can contact us in the tech support room inside the Hive chat, but I'll let you know here. Basically, in your binary.com account, both for your virtual account and your real money account, you have an API token, all right? And this is this alphanumeric code here, and you simply copy it and you paste it inside the binary.com API token window here inside the hybrid. Okay, so you go to your account, your settings in binary.com, you copy that alphanumeric code and you paste it here. All right, Then you select what type of trading you want to do. Is it semi-auto or full auto? And then you engage in risk management. Okay, so this is the third and final step. And what you want to do is, if you have, let's say you are in semi-automatic mode, right? Then the risk management here will not apply in terms of the price checks and the Hawkeye engine, because that's done when you actually trade each signal. Okay, there's a trade window which comes up, and there you decide what risk settings you want. But for those of you that are in fully automatic mode, also known as auto, what you're basically doing here is, after you've set the default transaction amount per signal, okay, you then would go to risk settings, which is the window next to it. And you will determine basically these various levels of risk per signal stream, okay? So it begins from extreme risk, and all that really means is immediate replication. It doesn't mean that your account is at risk. Absolutely not. It just means that your results will track that of Hive. So if Hive has a 70% week, you will get somewhere thereabouts. If Hive has a 50% ITM week, which can happen at times, you will get those type of results, right? So the way to view this spectrum here, spectrum of risk, is basically how closely you're tracking Hive. So when we say extreme risk, that means immediate replication. If a signal is fired on Hive and you're subscribed to it, immediately it will be replicated in your account. It won't do any sort of checks or anything like that. And as you go down the risk parameters, you have very high risk, risk, medium risk, semi-medium risk, low risk, very low risk, and no risk at all. A thing to note about this is that there's always a relationship with return, right? So if those of you are going to be setting no risk at all, you're probably only going to be getting 2-3 signals replicated per week. And this is assuming you've subscribed to all streams, right? So it's low volume. Those signals most likely will be winners, or most of them. So that's a good thing, but you just have to keep in mind that that's a very, very low volume, low risk type of trading. Now, for those of you that are going to be going towards the higher end, so very high risk, it's obviously there's a positive relationship between return and risk. So the more risk that you're taking, the more return you could potentially generate, okay? Now, the good news is, as I said earlier, we have the data, and every week we have more data. We can tailor these settings better, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time in advising you on which ones you should set or you should consider setting, especially in your first few weeks and when you're on virtual mode for each signal stream, right? And then see how that works. And if you're happy with that, you can then, of course, move to a live account. Before I proceed, I think it's important for those of you that are trading semi-automatic. Now, just to give you a bit of a breakdown, there are around 110 people using hybrid right now, and only 20 to 25% are using semi-automatic, including myself. So semi-automatic is actually for the more engaged traders. I would say almost sort of those that are semi-professional traders that understand binaries, that have been around for a while, that have the time to trade. This is basically how it looks. So when a signal is fired, you have this replication icon, which looks like arrows going clockwise and orange. You click on it and it pulls up this trade module. All right, this will show up on your screen in real time. And what you'll immediately see is all the parameters, everything is already selected for you, right? The expiries, the asset pair, you don't have to waste time on doing that on your broker platform. This is already linked to your binary.com account. And the asset is Euro US dollar, the direction is put, and you have the current time, you also have the pre-selected expiry, okay? Now the important thing to note is that you have the Hive entry price. This is the entry price that you have seen on Signal Hive. Then you have also the current spot price, and this is actually where this thing comes into its own, because the system will monitor when the current spot price is better than the entry price. If it's a put, right, so you're betting on the price going down, or you're trading with the view that the price will go down, you want to get in at the highest price possible. In this case, the Hive entry price was 1.08603. Mind you that by the time you opened up the module, it was at 1.08723, so it had actually moved by about 12 pips in your favor. Okay, and then it shows green. If it had moved against you, it would show red, and it would advise you not to take the trade because it's just more riskier. When it's green, you can go ahead and just take the trade, or you can click on the Hawkeye engine, select your risk settings, right? and just click on add to Hawkeye, and then it'll basically go in the watch list and start monitoring, and it will take the signal when it believes it has met your risk parameters that you had defined earlier. To the right, you can see the payout. All right. Typically, what we have noticed based on user feedback is that you're getting around, I would say 78% average return on binary.com. I would say maybe even 80%, which in our view is pretty high for the industry. And we of course hope that it stays there. And the more brokers that we're integrating with Hybrid, hopefully they kind of reach that type of level, 80%, 78 to 80%. And you also have a live chart here, which is very basic to the right, so you can see the rough direction of where the price is heading. Okay. So that's basically it. That's the trading. For those of you that want to keep a tab on your transactions through Hybrid, did they replicate? Because sometimes the signals may not replicate because it did not meet your risk threshold settings. For example, if you have very low risk assigned to a particular signal stream, then the system won't take the signal, even if it's fired, if it doesn't meet those parameters. And in that case, under replication status, it would just say failed. And if it did take it and it did win or did lose, it would show up here under transaction outcome, where you would see win or lost. If there was some error, which can happen, then you just click on view log and you send us the error report and we can investigate it. Okay? And this is all under transactions inside your Hybrid settings. Now let's discuss risk management. So we have installed a replication quantity limit. That just means that each signal that is fired, you can't enter it manually once using the semi-automatic mode, and then again and then again and again at better prices, right? Thereby allocating more capital. That would just be similar to martingaling, and we don't allow that from the Hive Hybrid unit. You're of course free to log into your account, your binary broker account, and trade the signal, but if you're going to be trading from Hive, we're all about the low risk trading. And then to that end, we also have an allocation cap, which means that at this moment you can't allocate more than $25 per signal. Okay. As we have mentioned in the last few weeks, for those of you that believe you are eligible for that, you can reach out to us. There's a brief interview process and a pretty detailed liability waiver that you need to sign, and we can we can consider raising those limits for you up to a certain amount. We also have now, as of tomorrow, so probably 24 hours from now, if you log out and log into Hybrid again, you will see the Hawkeye Risk Engine settings updated, and also you will have access to a hard stop or a numerical stop loss, which was not there before in Hybrid, which allows you to limit the number of losses you have in total per day using Hybrid, which is really good if you have a long-term view on trading, because it can dramatically limit the damage on down days. Then, of course, as you know, we allow access to virtual accounts. We allow your virtual accounts to be traded using Hybrid, so you can test the service out before leaping in with real money. And last but not least, we have a minimum trade size of 5 units. That's not us, that's actually from binary.com. If it were up to us, we would actually go down all the way to $1. But minimum trade size of 5 is pretty low risk. It's not the usual 25, so you can always test it out with this. Now, in specific, as you know, we've moved away from the pip-based thresholds that was pretty limited and basic. We've actually engineered the algorithm, made it a bit smarter, and we've actually moved to a qualitative system. So you're going to be having the following in your Hybrid risk settings tab. You're going to have extreme risk, very high risk, risk, medium risk, semi-medium risk, low risk, very low risk, and no risk at all, right? And for each signal stream, you will be able to determine what level of risk you want to take. Okay, that doesn't mean the amount of capital allocated. Remember, the amount of capital allocated is what you set for the stream, but what it does mean is when the Hawkeye engine believes it should take the signal, right? It won't take it immediately unless you set it to extreme risk, which means it will immediately take it. So based on the data that we received for, I would say, around 2,500 signals or 2,500 trades that were replicated in the last 2.5 weeks through the Hybrid universe, we have looked into the best parameters or the best risk settings for each stream, and I have now them here for you, okay? So tomorrow when you log out and log back in, somewhere in the evening, I would say around 6 p.m. GMT, all the changes would have propagated to all your accounts. You will be able to set this per stream. So starting with core, which is a robotic signal, we are advising ER, which is extreme risk, which just means instant replication. The moment the signal is fired, the system replicates it. For curve, we're going for SMR, okay, which is semi-medium risk. That means the system will do a few calculations after the curve is fired, and then it will take it or decide not to take the signal, okay? But curve with semi-medium risk has given us a win rate of around 75%, 77% to be precise, over the last 2.5 weeks. And that is higher than the underlying win rate of curve in the last 2.5 weeks, right? The underlying manual win rate. So that to us shows, okay, it's a low volume setting, but it's good because curve, which is traditionally a weaker signal, you're still getting a decent win rate out of it. Then you have dive. Okay, dive, we have gone for extreme risk or instant replication. It's a very high win rate signal. Recently, it's taken a bit of a hit, but it's coming off a very high variance curve where it had 39 wins and 0 losses in November and parts of December. So that's some of the variance kicking in, but here the results show that ER is the best setting. The same holds true for peak. Peak is, from backtests at least, a very, very high accuracy signal, and therefore, since it also fires on some extreme movements, it looks at some patterns, candlestick patterns, we think ER here is also valid, so extreme risk or instant replication. For turbo, looking at the data, it seems the high risk setting, okay, so it's not at the immediate price, but it waits for certain parameters to happen. The high risk setting, HR, is probably the best one. And then the extreme, similar to curve, okay, in terms of quality, not the greatest signal. This one also we suggest for you to use the semi-medium risk. As for the humans, those of you that are subscribed to the humans, we would suggest the HR or high risk setting for Alpha 1, so very similar to the turbo. For Bosca, who has a very high volume of signals, probably higher than any provider, we would suggest the R setting, the risk setting, okay? So it's a bit lower risk than the HR setting. And this is the setting that has yielded the best results on Bosca, right? And we're looking at somewhere about 67, 68% this month so far, whereas underlying his win rate is about 58%, right? So you're getting 10 percentage points more out by setting it to R. With El Rey, we would basically go for very low risk, although it's worth noting at this point that El Rey is no longer with Signal Hive, so this is almost irrelevant. Mr. Saki, the very popular provider, there we would go with ER, which is immediate replication. We had a win rate of about 71% over the last 2.5 weeks. And because he fires signals on these extreme spikes, it does make sense to get in ASAP. The joker would be HR, so high risk setting. The key also HR, high risk setting. The opportunist, slightly lower risk, so just go with R. And then with Tiki, we would actually suggest the MR setting to get the most out of his signals. Okay. And again, these settings will be live, propagated to your account tomorrow, so you need to give it about 24 hours. And when it shows up, you can basically watch this video, come to this portion in the video which is being recorded, and copy these settings in and let it run. Of course, you can choose your own settings as well, but this is just based on the data we have received. Another major addition to your risk management is the numerical stop loss that we're introducing. Okay, so as of tomorrow, you will be able to decide after how many number of losses you can have a total kill switch activated on your account, which means that for that particular day, no more trades will be taken. And this hard stop is definitely advised because we are in precarious market conditions. You see what is happening in the equity markets. You're seeing what is happening to US data. You're seeing what's happening in China as well. It is a very rough weather that we are going through. And it's best, of course, to have some hard stops in place. Okay, so because we are risk averse, we would advise you to have a one-stop rule. You can break that rule, you can go for 2 or 3, but anything more than 2 or 3, you're really pushing it in these markets. So I personally am going to be using a 1-stop rule, and we're going to go over the maths next to show you why that actually can work. If you have a monthly view on performance and not a daily view, then using a 1-stop rule can work. So here's the thing, if you look at Signal Hive, the average signal, whether it's a robot or a human, based on 4,500 signals that have been fired in live trading, not backtest, but live trading since June of last year, since we launched, the average win rate is 66%. Okay, so 2 out of 3 signals win. The probability of 2 consecutive wins is 44%. So you have 1 win, and then the next trade that's fired, the probability of that winning as well is 44%, right? The probability of Hive losing a signal is 34%. Okay? So immediately what you see is that the probability of 2 consecutive wins on Hive, which is 44%, is actually higher than the probability of experiencing 1 loss. That's important to remember. If you go down the probability spectrum, you'll see the probability of 3 consecutive wins, right, is 29%. So it's slightly lower than the probability of losing a signal in Hive. So 3 consecutive wins is 30%. The probability of 1 win followed by a loss, okay, 1 win followed by loss is 22%. It's actually half the probability of having 2 consecutive wins. You're twice as more likely to have 2 consecutive wins, at 44%, than you are with 1 win and 1 loss. Okay? And the probability of 2 consecutive wins followed by a 1 loss is 15%. The probability of 3 consecutive wins followed by loss is 10%. Okay, so we've just moved down what's the most probable outcome in Hive, which is a win, all the way down to the least probable. Okay? And the most probable outcome, which is 66%, you basically going to win the trade, would result in you generating $8 if $10 were invested on that trade, right? Assuming an 80% payout. It's a bit less, maybe 78%, so $7.80, but let's round up to 8. The probability of 2 consecutive wins, which is 44%, would result in $16 of net profit. The probability of a Hive signal loss, which is at 34%, would result in a $10 loss. Okay. The probability of 3 consecutive wins, which is similar to losing 1 Signal Hive, would result in a $24 gain. Okay. The probability of 1 win followed by 1 loss, which is just 22%, would be minus $2. Okay. And then, of course, a probability for 2 consecutive wins followed by a loss is $6 profit, and the probability of 3 consecutive wins followed by a loss is $14. Okay, this is the return. So if these outcomes happen here, this is what this would mean for your P&L per trade. Okay, so what you're seeing here is that by following a 1-stop rule, in general, it's probably going to be profitable, given that the underlying win rate of Hive is 66%. Now, there are a few streams that are below that, but then there are also a few streams that are well above that, right? So this is the average win rate. So this is roughly what you can look at, or what you can expect. Now, you're probably wondering, what if my 1-stop gets triggered every day, right? So let's say you have a really unlucky week, and you start off Monday morning and Tiki fires a signal, it's OTM. You start off Tuesday, Bosca fires a signal, it's OTM. You start off Wednesday, and the story holds. Well, if you compute the probability of this, of 5 consecutive 1-loss days, so where you're stopped out immediately at the first signal, the probability of that is 0.05%. 0.05%, right? It's not even half a percent. It's 0.05%. So the occurrence of this happening is so infrequent and improbable that it'll probably happen 1 week every 7 months, or about 200 days, right? So the probability that you're going to have a week where you have 5 OTMs in a row for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is probably going to happen to you once every 200 days or once every 7 months, which is actually not that bad. Okay. So some of you may say, can I use a 2-stop rule? Right? Can I have 2 stops and then I'm done for the day? Yeah, you can. We advise 1 stop, but you can certainly use 2 stop because you'll be able to win more as well. The probability of having 5 consecutive love 2 days, by love 2 I mean 0-2, okay, where you're stopped out, is nearly 0%. That's how low it is, with a likely occurrence of 1 every 111 years. All right, so it's some crazy figure. That's something important to note. So it's very unlikely that you're going to have love 2 5 days in a row, given the win rates that we have. The probability of having even 2 consecutive 0-2 days is 1.3%, right? 2 consecutive days where you're at 0-2 and 0-2, which means you may face this situation once every 2 to 3 months. With a probability of 1.3%, it means you'll probably be encountering this, every 10 weeks. So you can use a 2-stop rule. We urge you to use a 1-stop rule. Okay? You may ask, what about a balance stop? The percentage equity drawdown and fixed balance based drawdowns, that type of risk management, in our view, is more applicable to FX and other asset classes, okay, where the outcome is not binary. It's far from binary. For binary, in our view, numerical stop losses are more befitting. So for this moment, we're not going to have a balance stop or a balance-based stop. We're actually going to make it based on numerical. So you just have to code it in. You want 5 stop losses or 3 or 2, and hopefully you go for 1, and that's it. And the system will lock you out for that day. With regards to win stops, we've received some requests. Are we going to be adding win stops, which means if the system wins 5 trades or 6 trades, it stops trading or it stops replicating. In our view, these win stops are required for humans to mitigate the detrimental effects, that ensue if you're winning too much, like you have an overdose of adrenaline and dopamine, which make you make risky decisions. So you become overconfident if you win too much. It's basically the opposite of what happens when you experience consecutive losses. Because the system is getting more and more mathematical, more and more algorithmic, we don't think it's necessary to have a win stop in place for now. So for now, we're giving you a very simple setting. It's just a manual hard stop based on a numerical stop loss, right? So you just have to determine how many trades are you prepared to lose daily. Right, let's discuss pricing. So the thing is that it's free. So Signal Hive Hybrid is included in your monthly subscription price for Signal Hive. So you're paying $49.99 for the robots, which come included. And now you're also getting the Hive Hybrid automatic trading capability embedded in that price. At this moment, we have no plan to increase the pricing for this. We want to first make sure that the system is stable and it's generating a stable source of income for you on the side. And this process may take a few months, right? Because the technology is pretty new to the binary space. And once we've tweaked everything, etc., then we would consider raising prices for new clients, not for existing clients, of course. And also especially when it comes to the waivers that you're asking us to do on raising the trade limits. Right now, we're very happy with having a maximum trade limit of 25, but when the system stabilizes, of course, we understand you want to have some fun in terms of actually generating meaningful profit. And so we will allow you to do that. At that point, of course, that may mean that the prices on these go up.